What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. It's time for the third installment of our series giving feedback on your therapist websites. We'll see as we go if any new themes pop up. So let's dive into the first video for today, bravespirit.ca. So far, the messaging that I'm getting is really warm and inviting. I mean, I love your warm smile, the sense that we're going to do some inner work together, and I know where you practice, but it's not so clear if I'm the right person for your therapy practice. It feels generic enough that you could potentially serve anyone. So it's helpful to hone it in a little bit more specifically. We'll see as we go if we can find more clues about that. Next, let's check out the trust building piece, which effectively I'm looking for the about section to have some tidbits about who you are without sharing your whole life story. Okay, so this is an interesting format that's a little bit different than what I utilize, where the focus here just below the fold is focusing on, who do I serve? And then building a sense of, how counseling can help somebody going through some of these things. And then it pops up to, hi, I'm Amy. And Amy does a really good job in this initial blurb of just sharing a little bit about themselves without sharing their whole life story, so that we can kind of get to know, why is this something that you care so much about? Why should I trust you? If it were me, I would probably on the homepage have this section here be more concise. Just have it be a couple sentences on your homepage before I see Amy and a little bit about you. And let's learn more about you, Amy. I think we're in the about section now. Okay, this about section is really helpful. Amy, clearly you know what you're about, and it's showing up crystal clear in your about section. I will say we first have this area here that kind of lives a little bit in the how I can help you, or here's what it might feel like to be going through what you're going through. And this is all helpful information, but I'd save it for a different page. For example, the home page or a services page. In the about section, we can just kick off with this part here. Hi, I'm Amy Pinnell. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. And then going on to describe yourself, if you're the right therapist for somebody. I mean, this stuff is all very helpful, where Amy shares a little bit about, okay, I do individual counseling. I help highly sensitive helpers and healers find ease and joy in their lives through mindful inner work. That is a perfect tagline. I would put something like this, maybe the direct quote, back on the homepage. Somewhere right down here, or even just right here. Put that same quote right there, and that's gold. I imagine you would get a much higher conversion of folks landing on your website to going ahead and booking with you if you did that. There's also some really helpful trust building details here. So Amy's revealing that they're a highly sensitive person. I understand the struggle. And so that's all really helpful self-disclosure without, again, over-disclosing. And I do appreciate this section. I might be the right therapist for you if, and this is, again, naming who Amy serves. You clearly know who you serve, and it's just a little bit more fuzzy on your homepage, who might benefit from your services. Okay, so the next part that I look for is the can you help me with my specific issue piece, which I usually look to the services pages for that. Oh, see, this is crystal clear. We have a list in the drop-down menu. Good job. That's very clear to me who Amy is serving. If I'm someone in one of these categories, I'm going to know where I need to click if I'm saying, I want some support. Okay, this is like a perfect services page. We get the message that makes me feel an immediate sense of relief right at the beginning. And then I think we got some SEO going right here, which A+, we need to put that somewhere. And again, more SEO here as well. Hopefully you're showing up in Google searches for that already. This is very helpful to say, okay, here's why I'm here. And the reason why we list it isn't to tell people why they're here, but to show that we as the therapist understand what it feels like to be in the shoes of our potential client showing up. So that's huge in trust building and believing that you can help me with my specific issue. Amy goes on to describe what the struggle might feel like, the hardships might look like, and then shifts into I see you, and here's how I can help you, which is all wonderful, and caps it off with the cherry on top. describing a little bit of Amy's own personal story around being an HSP themselves. If this were me looking for help with being an HSP, like, you got me. I probably don't need to click around much more to just go ahead and click one of the book now buttons, which also is the next piece that I look at. And I've been seeing the book now button all over the place, start your journey. And I think you even are clear in saying that there's a 20-minute consultation on one of the other pages. Okay, so overall evaluation of Amy's site, like, this looks wonderful. I would just change mostly your homepage. You are clearly very clear on who you serve. So to just make sure you capture that somewhere right up here in the first 5 seconds that someone arrives, I think is gonna make a big difference. Okay, let's carry on. Now this one's like very clear cut with the 5-second rule. Like, here are my specialties. You know, it'd be like if you went in the services drop down and then just listed each item in the drop down. Evidence-based therapy for anxiety, depression, anger, check, right? These are the different people that I serve. So I'm very clear on who you serve. It does feel a little bit more heady when I see language like evidence-based therapy for, and perhaps that fits really well for you. Perhaps that's part of your brand. It's not exuding like stereotypical like therapist warmth, but that therapist isn't going to be for everyone. So I'm curious to see how things play out as we keep going. Okay, so let's take a look at the trust building piece. So this is kind of an interesting take that I haven't seen before. This is kind of like the about section, but framed as my approach rather than about me, but it is still the about me section in a way where I'm seeing that nice headshot. I would definitely introduce your name if you are a solo practice, which as far as I can tell, this is a solo practice. And then this first paragraph here, I'd say it's empathic, but it's also pretty generic. I'd say you could probably remove this entire paragraph and just jump straight into these next 2 paragraphs, which is quite helpful in naming a little bit about who you are, building trust. I'm down to earth and approachable. I'll meet you wherever you're at mentally and emotionally, etc. And then talking a bit about this therapist approach. Let's read more. So it kind of just elaborates on this therapist approach. I still haven't seen a name yet, which really stands out to me. Your name is also part of SEO. There's going to be a point where word of mouth does pick up for most of us if we're doing good work, and folks will search for your name. And so you want your about page to show up when people search for you. Okay, and we got a feature on their local news channel. Let's see what happens here.
Lucky to have joining us this morning Zach Goldman, a therapist with ThriveWorks in West Hartford. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Typically, the way I think about stress is you can kind of think of a fraction where the numerator would be stressful things going on and the denominator would be your ability to cope with those things. And the smaller the fraction, the less stressed you're going to be. There's 2 ways to smaller that fraction. It's either decrease the amount of stressful things or increase the amount of coping mechanisms that you can do to handle the stress better.
This is great to have this segment on local news. Having this video on your website is really helpful for trust building, because now I feel like I got a very clear sense of what it feels like to sit in the room with Zach, and also some emphases on Zach's approach. Any video you can have on your website is gold. So let's take a look at this question of, can you help me with my specific thing? Okay, I clicked on anxiety because I've had my own anxiety disorder in the past, so let's kind of see what plays out here. Okay, so this is a pretty detailed services page. There's a lot of information about how anxiety works and what treatment looks like. And I appreciate this section that identifies what anxiety can look like, because a lot of times we don't realize that what we're going through is a symptom of anxiety. And then this section is pretty elaborate, and I'm kind of torn between, whether this feels super helpful to say, okay, this is exactly what we're going to do. If we work together, we're going to go through all of these steps of treating anxiety. Or if it feels overwhelming, like, wait, I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different steps, and I feel overwhelmed already, and I don't know if I can do it. One way to approach this is just listing the bullet points alone. And then if you wanted to, as time unfolded, as you had time, you could make blog posts about each of these steps, and then you could link to the blog posts within your list here, so that way it feels a little neater. Another piece of feedback is I'm noticing that at least some of the text on this website is a little bit too small. This text here is small, and this bullet list here, and this as well, and I noticed that on some of the other pages. So it is a good idea to do the best best you can to check out what your website looks like on a few different devices. All right, and let's move on to the next piece, which is what are the next steps if I wanted to book with you? There's this book now button at the top, which is perfect. Oh, that's really interesting. I don't think I've ever seen someone do that before. A $30 deposit for your first consult. Okay, the ethical part of my brain is just like, pew, 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 pew. I'm genuinely kind of like scratching my brain going, wait, if we charge for the initial consult, does that not mean that that person is already legally on our caseload if we charge them for the service? And therefore, we basically had to do an entire intake, even if all they're doing is a 15-minute phone screen. If you know the answer to this, let me know in the comments. Ooh, and we got a blog. Let's see the blog. I mean, even just looking at the titles of these blog posts kind of gives me a sense that, yeah, Zach might be a little bit more focused on like, how do we rewire the brain? How do we change the behaviors to help shift how we feel, our stress, our anxiety, etc. So I think what I brought up at the beginning is pretty on brand here. It takes me back to my CBT days. Zach, I don't know if you do CBT, but the text up here seems to capture that well. Okay, and let's do one more because yes, it has already been 50 minutes of recording. So we'll do one more. Let's see, fulfilling motherhood. 5-second rule. I'm definitely getting what this site is about. Like, we're helping you embrace motherhood with confidence. Love that. I will say that this piece here is a little bit long for things that are showing up above the fold. So this might be something that you drop somewhere a little bit lower down here, but keeping this line with maybe something else that's related to SEO. For example, it could be one header that says therapy for new mothers or whatever feels like it captures what you do best. And then this could be the tagline, helping you embrace motherhood with confidence. Like that could be all of your text that you have showing up above the fold here. And it looks like this practice might be a group practice. Okay, so since this is a group practice, let's go back to the home page, then it can make sense to skip the about section or have the about section really be about the practice. So here they're shifting to have you struggled with some of these things, and the assumption is this is stuff that they focus on, and it's very clear who might be showing up to this practice. And then virtual therapy and coaching from moms who get it. I mean, that's already just saying from moms who get it already creates that trust building that we're looking for. And then they're just elaborating on it down here with the request a consultation. This looks clickable, so I'm gonna see what that is. Okay, this is in their work with us section. Oh, these are all clickable. Are these services pages or are these blog posts? These are blog posts. Okay, that is like an A+. Trust building and SEO strategy. Here we have effectively where on their version of the services page, and the way that they did it was they have therapy and coaching and then their book and freebies. This is a way to do it. So we have to scroll down to see what specific services they have within therapy. So therapy for pregnancy, therapy for postpartum, fertility challenges, and they let each of these be a separate blog post. Because it's a blog post, you know, there's a sense that it can have a lot more words and be a lot more thorough. Curious how they create their bio pages. All right. Somewhere in there, my camera battery died, so I switched to my old camera because I have yet to buy backup batteries on my new camera. So something that can get a little bit sticky with group practice websites is you can kind of create this overall brand as an entire group practice here, clearly helping folks enter into motherhood and all the things related to that. And it can be possible to get a little bit lost as far as what kind of specific individual specialties each therapist has. Clearly, they're all going to be focusing on motherhood in this case, but you know, Crystal here shares that they support blended families, specifically help parents of young children learn skills to manage big emotions. So there's a lot of details that don't necessarily have like their own services page or things like that. I hear from so many folks in group practices where they feel like maybe the group practice overall is thriving, but that specific therapist might not have a very full caseload. It's great if you can give your individual therapists within your group practice every opportunity for potential clients to discover and see them. So here in Crystal's case, you can keep this stuff if you'd like, and then carry on to say, you know, have a header that says specialties. And then underneath that, you can go ahead and have a bold header for each of these examples of specialties listed here with a little bit more information about what it would look like to work with Crystal for each of those specialties. And then you could let each of those headers be a clickable link to something like a blog post that's all about that. So let's say there's a blog post about supporting blended families, and that specific blog post is going to be written by Crystal. Then that blog post can have a little bio about Crystal at the bottom. Say, this blog was written by Crystal. If you'd like to book with Crystal for support with blended families, click here. So there's ways to make sure you're both supporting the group practice and the individual therapist, while also hopefully helping potential clients match up with the best therapist for them at that group. Now, I have no idea if any of the potential concerns I just named apply at all for Fulfilling Motherhood. Fulfilling Motherhood, for using your practice as an example of this. I do hear this complaint from so many therapists in group practices where they feel unsupported and they feel as though it's not easy for potential clients to find them. So I'm just using this as an opportunity to name that out loud, and whether it applies to you at Fulfilling Motherhood or not, just take it with a grain of salt and let it factor in or not based on whether it applies to you. Overall, I really like this website. It's clear, obviously, who you serve, what you're about. Your trust building is on point. Okay, and I forgot to take a look at what to do next. Let's see, request an appointment. I've seen this happen a lot more recently, and I'm curious about kind of the reasoning and the ethics behind it, where folks are asking a lot more questions before requesting a consult or booking an appointment. I'm not sure on kind of the ethical, legal ramifications of that. Maybe it also differs from state to state, but that's something to just make sure you're aware of when you set up your site. That's something that I haven't done before, so I haven't looked into it in my specific state. All right, well, yet again, this took more than an hour for me to only look at 3 websites. Watch out for more videos in this series. Thank you to all of you who offered your websites for me to look at. Don't forget to check your email so I can send a little thank you your way for offering your websites for me to get feedback on. Well, I hope you found some helpful tidbits in this video, whether your website was featured today or if you're just hoping to glean some new knowledge from the video. I offered feedback, but honestly, it's like nitpicking on smaller things. You all have really wonderful websites. And I hope your websites are already working for you so well and that these tips just enhance them, make them even better. And before we close, I'd like to thank TherapyNotes.com for sponsoring this video. TherapyNotes helps with scheduling, notes, and billing. They have a HIPAA-secure telehealth platform and so much more to help your practice keep running smoothly. If you'd like to check out TherapyNotes, you can get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment just by clicking the link in the description of this video. Well, thank you so much for joining me in this video today. I love nerding out, looking at people's websites and giving feedback. So I'm looking forward to making more videos in this series. And until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well.